Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to crack the code on one of humanity's greatest inventions, writing. But our story, it doesn't start with paper or ink. No, it starts with something way older, ancient bones that could actually speak.
All right, let's just dive right in. I want you to imagine something. Think about a message, not one you'd get on your phone, but one that was carved onto a piece of bone 3,000 years ago. I mean, what would it even say? What could it possibly tell us about the people who wrote it? And get this isn't some fantasy. This is the very beginning of recorded Chinese history.
So these are the actual artifacts that carry those ancient messages. They're called oracle bones. And for the longest time, nobody knew what these strange markings were. I mean, they were a total mystery. But here's the thing, they're not just random scratches. They are the key that unlocks the very origin of Chinese writing.
Okay, so our story kicks off way back in the Shang dynasty. We're talking ancient China, 2nd millennium BCE. It was this world of powerful kings and complex rituals, and they had a problem. They needed a way to make their words last, to preserve them beyond just human memory. And that's exactly where these mysterious objects come into play.
So when archaeologists finally managed to decipher these marks, what they found was just incredible. This wasn't just gibberish. It was a full-blown script, a structured, organized system for communication. We weren't just looking at cracks in a bone anymore. We were actually reading the earliest known form of Chinese writing. So what exactly was this writing, When most of us think about ancient scripts, our minds kind of jumped to simple pictures, right? But the reality here is so much more sophisticated, and honestly, it's way more interesting.
Now, it's true that a lot of these ancient signs started out as pictographs. And a pictograph is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a symbol that starts as a drawing of something you can actually see, in the real world, like the sun or a tree or a person. It's a really intuitive place to start when you're trying to write things down.
But right here is where we run into a really common misconception. Was the Shang script just a bunch of little drawings? The answer is a big, definitive no. And figuring out why that is, well, that's what reveals the true genius behind this whole system. And this difference is absolutely crucial. See, a picture, like if you just doodle a sun, anyone can interpret it however they want. But a written symbol for the sun, that has a very specific meaning and a job to do. It's a standardized sign inside a structured system. And that leap from a simple drawing to a systematic symbol, man, that is everything. So how does that transformation even happen? How does a simple drawing turn into a character in a really complex script? Let's actually trace the evolution of one single symbol to see exactly how it works. Okay, so you start with the real thing, the sun up in the sky. Then you draw a picture of it, right? A circle with the dot. But for that to be useful for writing, it has to get stylized. It needs to be made simpler, more consistent, so you can write it fast and everyone knows what it is. And then finally, it becomes a true symbol that you can combine with other symbols to build complex ideas. It's not just a picture of the sun anymore, it's a building block of language.
So the big takeaway here is this. Even at this incredibly early stage, the Shang script was not some primitive little experiment. No way. It was a fully functioning, complex system. The inscriptions on these bones could record names, dates, actions, really detailed questions, stuff that goes way, way beyond what a few simple pictures could ever do. Which, of course, brings us to a huge question. Why? Why did this complex system even develop in the first place? And the answer isn't just, for communication. It's much deeper. It's about power, it's about ritual, and it's about a king's desperate need to talk to the heavens.
You see, the Shang kings used these bones for something called divination, basically asking the future. A ritual specialist would carve a question right onto a turtle shell or an animal bone. Then they'd apply some intense heat, and the bone would crack. And those cracks, they were read like a message, interpreted as divine answers from ancestors and other spiritual powers. And the questions they carved on there, wow. They give us this incredible, direct look right into the minds of the Shang elite. And they weren't asking about small stuff. They were asking about going to war, if the harvest would be good, if the queen's child would be a son, what was causing the king's illness. I mean, these were the huge, high-stakes decisions that literally decided the fate of the entire dynasty. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly illustrates the real purpose of writing when it first appeared in China. It wasn't just a tool, it was a sacred technology. By writing down the questions and the answers, the king was creating a permanent record of his conversation with the gods. It was proof, you know? It cemented his authority as the only one who could act as that bridge between the human and spiritual worlds. And that deep, deep connection between writing and power, that's exactly why the script didn't just survive. It thrived. It grew and evolved to become the bedrock, the very foundation for an entire civilization's memory. But what's truly mind-blowing is the continuity. I mean, think about it. The script evolved over thousands of years. It changed styles, it got more complex for sure, but the characters used in China today are the direct descendants of those ancient marks that were carved onto bone all those centuries ago. We're talking about more than 3,000 years here. This is one of the longest continuous writing traditions in all of human history. I mean, other ancient scripts, think Egyptian hieroglyphs or Mesopotamian cuneiform, they fell out of use, they were totally forgotten for centuries. But this one kept going. Just stop and think about what a massive shift this was for a second. Before writing, a society's entire history, all its rituals, all its knowledge, every single bit of it had to be held in someone's memory. Writing just completely changes the game. It shifts that huge burden to a permanent external record. Suddenly, a king's decision wasn't just spoken and maybe forgotten. No, it was carved in bone, creating this whole new level of authority and continuity. And that, right there, is the ultimate legacy of the oracle bones. That incredible intellectual leap from a language that you can only hear to a language that can be seen, that can be preserved, that can be studied thousands of years later. That is one of the greatest achievements in all of world history. What started as a tool for kings to talk to gods became the memory of an entire civilization. So all of this leaves us with one final, kind of provocative thought. The Shang kings recorded their most urgent questions on the most permanent thing they had, bone. When you look at our own world with our fleeting digital texts and our endless streams of data, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What story is our writing going to tell about us 3,000 years from now?